This is impromptu little live stream on a Saturday at 3:30. Very odd time for me, but thought I'd just do it. I was going to get ready to play some video games and goof off, and I was like, you know what? I was also looking at the news and having some interactions with Andrea Burkhart and reading some stories, some news stories, and I thought I'd share some thoughts or at least do some thinking out loud. We think through communication, and that's what I'm going to do. And since it's so unscheduled and so oddball time here, I appreciate, number one, the rewatch crew. Oh, but April shows up. Hi, April. Can you hear me? Is everything sounding decent? My internet connection probably isn't the best, but here I am. And let's just talk about this January 6th pipe bomber suspect story that's circulating. And then after that, maybe a few little life updates. And I wanted to say hello to my people who've been sticking with me. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the topic, as usual, I will put the, and I haven't done StreamYard in quite a while, so I'll put the substance of the January 6th pipe bomber suspect story up front. So the rewatch crew, if that's what you're here for, you can see that. And the life updates and stuff at the end, so that my people that want to stick with me and hear about that can be here. Anyways, just doing a quick update. Here's the thing. All right. So we all look at our different news sources, and one of the news sources that I look at is the Citizen Free Press. Let me see if I can share screen here, and I'll show you I will show you the. Let me see. Make sure I've got it up. Yeah, there it is right there. Okay, so share window or screen. Nope, that's not it. How do I get that up there? It's been a while. Okay, there it is. Now, let's see. Present, invite, share screen. Here it is. Okay, so I'll allow this. So see if you can, does that show up? Yeah, Citizen Free Press. I don't know if I can zoom in on that, but if you read, I'll read these headlines here, okay? Let's see. Here it says, FBI originally traced pipe bomber to house next door to suspect in Northern Virginia. Photo shows shared a townhome between possible suspects. So if you go to the Citizen Free Press, you'll be able to read a lot of these stories, okay? And none of this is certain. Suspect may be completely innocent, and that's a very important point, important note. And so anyway, those are kind of our top stories. So if we go to this story, it goes to X, and it says the 94% Gait match. 94%. This is really important. This is what I want to talk about. The 94% Gait match to this person looks far more damning when you realize the FBI traced the pipe bomber to the house right next door to hers just within days of January 6th. All right, so I want to talk about this story in context. Let's see. Move. So what we have here, the story sounds, and when my first reaction was like, okay, what was that? It was a pretty good story, right? But then as I thought about it, I'm like, wait a second, what's Gait analysis? I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I'm they're not really organized, so we're just going to talk through them. Number one is that gait, the way somebody walks, so the way that they saunter, right, is actually quite an identifiable feature of human beings. Okay, so when we see somebody walking, we can identify that person by the way they walk. That is it's almost as good as facial recognition, in that as human beings, we are very sensitive to the gait of other people. And so that type of human perception is a very good identifying mark. So that plays to my bias, knowing that. Now, I'm not saying that it's 100%. I'm just saying that we're good at recognizing gaits. So that's sort of, and then now as you dig deeper into it, this suspect is a soccer player who broke her tibia, which is her bone on between her knee and her ankle, and walks with a limp. And so evidently the limp also is present in these video of this suspect, right? So that's also sort of a distinguishing feature. So for example, when we talk about tool mark analysis is quite discredited as a science, in that you can't say this particular shoe matches this particular shoe print unless there's a very distinctive feature of that tool. For example, the shoe has a cut in a certain place within the treading, and that is unique to this particular shoe. Then it becomes a much better, matching type thing. It's not 100%, but it's much better with a distinguishing feature. So I would add that idea to a gait. So if somebody has a distinctive limp, maybe that's something that we can add to the pile, right, of forensics. However, and Andrea pointed this out, Andrea Burkhardt, who's an excellent defense lawyer out west, is that, and it ties in with my ideas on bullet matching. And that is, there is no forensic science bullet matching that can say this particular bullet matches this particular barrel. All right, that is junk science. And the reason for that is because there is no meta database of every barrel that's done. So if you have a Glock, it's a Glock 9mm, and you find a 9mm bullet, as a fragment, matching that to this particular thing. They go, oh, well, it has striations, and I've looked through a microscope, and the microscope has this. The problem with that is that there's no database of barrels or striations or fired bullets. So it's just, it's a very subjective thing. It's not science. Just because computers and microscopes are involved does not mean it's science. I would say the same thing exists about gait analysis. This is a new thing, right? It's like the bite mark analysis. Now, what is it? It doesn't mean it's useless. Does not mean it's useless. It means that it is evidentiary. It is an evidentiary. It's a bit of evidence, but it needs to be very limited in how it is presented to a jury and how it is presented in the legal system. Okay, so it could be maybe a basis for probable cause, but to have somebody say, we ran it through our nifty-difty computer and this is a match, I really think that would be error. Yeah, and the 94% question too is like, well, that's a 6% error rate. That seems to me to be a reasonable doubt. Now, maybe it's enough for probable cause. So just as a strict question of science, gait analysis is not science. Because a computer says it doesn't mean that it's science. It just means there's a computer involved, right? I could do computerized horoscopes, and that would be off a computer. It doesn't make horoscopes science. So that's sort of some initial thoughts. Now, but it doesn't mean it's useless evidence. So there's some other bits of information here that we see in the public domain, and that is that that after they traced a suspect through a series of of things. They got picked up by a car, they went into, or whatever, however they traced this person, and they traced that suspect back to the basically right next door to this particular person's townhome. So that is an additional bit of circumstantial evidence that makes it much stronger. It's confirmation, it's circumstantial confirmation evidence, right? Now, there used to be something called the circumstantial evidence rule. Circumstantial evidence rule that says if you cannot, if there is a reasonable hypothesis of innocence, then the judge must acquit. This is at a jury trial. So we have different stages. There is arrest, probable cause for arrest, but then there's beyond a reasonable doubt at a jury trial. And then you have the venue. So and there's the politics around this. So if this the pipe bomber from DC is at a DC venue. Now let's talk about the grand conspiracy theories. It's funny because these grand conspiracy theories, I used to be very much against anything that smelled of conspiracy. I was against. And in this, but I have since been convinced that there are in fact grand conspiracies, that our government is actually doing something called false flags. There are setups, and if you read, there's a really good movie called Hating Breitbart, where they talk about how the tax people, when people were protesting against taxes and higher taxes, and they were setting things up. There was fake protests, and there's all this, and then they were walking to the Capitol. They had these Democratic congressmen walking to the Capitol, and they said they were being racial slurs were being thrown at them. That's their whole walk, and they're walking and it's proud and they're brave, and the left was celebrating them as heroes, right? And that was turned out to be complete garbage, because everybody had their cell phone and there was no racial slurs yelled at those people at all. And it was fake news, but the media amplified it because it's all partisan, right? So the fact is that, from a conspiratorial side, which I am not discounting at this point, this person, it's named as a suspect, was a Capitol police officer. So a Capitol police, and these were basically, from what I understand, not big bombs or not something. So it was almost a setup so that, the January 6th people are mad bombers that want to bomb the DNC, right? That's what the meme is. And so it was in the interest of the anti-January 6ers, the Capitol Police being in on it, to set up and create a false flag operation where because the January 6th people were not generally violent across the board, they needed to make them violent. And so how do you do that? The only person that was killed at January 6th was Ashley Babbitt, who was killed by a Capitol police officer, right? So this is this suspect. So it plays into this, my natural bias, right? And there were RNC and DNC, right? So, but it goes into, it's a besmirchment. If it's a false flag operation, it would be besmirching the January 6th protesters at the Capitol, not and make them enemy of the state, right, so to speak. So that, and the state is doing the setup, doing the false flag operation. Now, that's my natural bias because I am, on that side, right? But you need to lean against that, because that is the way that disinformation, that's where you really need to be protecting yourself against ruthless speculation, because it agrees with your worldview and your conspiratorial worldview. Therefore, it must be true. No, I think we need to maintain our healthy skepticism towards these stories and look at it objectively. And what is the hard evidence? So far, the hard evidence is this Gait. Now there's and plus the circumstances of tracking the person back to this place, which is those two pieces. But I don't know if that just alone is beyond a reasonable doubt, but it's leading in that direction. And this is where people make a mistake, because in a criminal context, the standard is beyond the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. Well, some things are, let's say 70%, maybe 50, 60, 70%, but it's not for sure 100% beyond a reasonable doubt. And therefore, but we're uncomfortable with that lack of decisiveness. Now, you can make your own decision when it comes to politics or what you feel is right. But when we start talking about accusing somebody of a crime, we need to be very careful in how we're doing that. Oh, Shane Seuss is here. Good to see you, Shane. See there? Boy, Shane comes diving in at the last minute. This is a surprise. I didn't tell anybody I do. In fact, I wasn't even going to do a stream. This thing I've been bouncing it around. I've been reading these stories, and I had a little discussion a little online back and forth with Andrea, and I just think it's an interesting unfolding story, and it does play into my thoughts that that it was a false flag operation meant to besmirch the January 6 people, but maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. We don't know this really. And it's just a breaking news story. So I want all of my people that are watching you to be very careful to follow it. It's interesting, and if it is a false flag operation by the Capitol Police, I mean, some of the stuff that's been going on is just incredibly bad. Now let's people talk about Watergate in the 70s. Watergate was a blip compared to what's actually happened. For example, this Smith prosecutor who subpoenaed almost 500 warrants to surveil congressmen, Republican congressmen, basically the entire Republican power structure, looking for crimes, subpoenaing Senator Ted Cruz's, for example, his phone records without his knowledge. And this is just so way beyond anything that even remotely happened in Watergate. It is an incredible threat to our republic. What the weaponization of our government against one particular party or one particular group of people. It's a very, very bad development in our country. And politically, you can make your judgments. Fair enough. But I want you to be very careful when it comes to criminal accusations, because that standard is much different. So let me see. Oh, Gigi's here. Good to see you, Gigi. You still need to email me. That's sort of my thoughts. I don't know what else I can tell you about that. This is a little like very impromptu live stream, but I haven't streamed in a while. And I wanted to just come on and say hello and maybe give you a little update about what's going on in my life. First of all, I will tell you that I'm much happier. I'm finally through the darkness, the evil, mostly through the darkness that visited upon me. And part of it is from streaming, because I made myself a target by being out there and sharing my thoughts through these streams. And but some evil people decided to try to attack me. And so I will tell you that I do have a lawsuit against the Miami Herald for defamation and interference with contract. So that is ongoing because they really pretty much took away my criminal law career. Now, what did I do after that? I went to a firm called Nicholas and Associates, and I did trucking defense, civil defense for about 1 year. And I am now senior trial attorney at a firm called Felicetti Law, the Felicetti Law Firm, which is a plaintiff's personal injury law firm based in Miami. But I am the Florida senior trial attorney for that firm. So we have cases all over the state doing PI cases, and more updates as they go. But I'm actually very happy at this current job. I mean, it's such a good fit for me right now that I pinch myself. I'm like, is this really true? I mean, I learned a lot at the last firm I was with, but there's a lot of things that are very good about what I'm doing now. I can't tell you too much about it. I'm still relatively new, but I will say that things are going very good. And I'm finally laughing about things. I wasn't laughing for a long time. I was very down. And I think Excited Utterance, Hella from Excited Utterance, did a video on it. And she put this thing about like me streaming after when I was sort of in the pits of depression. And it was really sad. So I will say that I think that I've gotten through that for the most part. It was very, very hard on me. But the one remaining thing is this outstanding lawsuit. But, it's just wrong what was done. I didn't do anything wrong. They wrote false and defamatory articles, got me fired from the state attorney's office, took away my career in criminal law, and that's it. So, yeah, but God is at work. And I wanted to tell you too. I wanted to tell you a story. So on to another little update, and most people may not know, this is very obscure, but the Michael Malloy show. Michael Malloy was one of my followers, one of my listeners, one of my fans, and was a very nice guy. I think he was in Arizona, and he had a live stream that he would do. He was in a nursing home, and he was really, instead of sitting around looking at the walls, he would do the live stream called the Michael Malloy Show, and he was really funny. And I sent him a couple books and free, and he was really loved that. He'd always say, "Oh, my attorney, guys," we'd have little interactions online. Just a nice guy. I met him through Danielle, who probably you know Danielle. And anyway, so that was Michael Malloy's show. Was just a nice guy I met online, never met him personally, but just a nice fellow who did this stream. And I thought it was commendable that somebody that was in a nursing home was like, they're out there, still out there, firing away on the internet. I think that was pretty cool. And so here's somebody saying they lost their faith. Well, listen to this story. So I hadn't thought about Michael Malloy in a month or two. I mean, it's been a long time. I mean, he's somebody that's on the channel and I think about occasionally, but it's like, it's not a friend. He's an internet presence and somebody I'd like to watch and say, make his day brighter every day. Once in a while by jumping in his chat, and he'd get all excited that Gosney's in his chat. And so that was always fun. I'd like to do that. And Danielle was much closer to him. Well, anyway, I think it was the night before last, I was at the dinner table, and for some reason, I just started thinking, I wonder whatever happened to Michael Malloy. Michael Malloy show, yeah, whatever happened to him. And I said this out loud to my wife and son. It wasn't just a thought, but all of a sudden I started thinking about him, and it had been a month but since the last time I thought about him. It was, I'm living my life, I was sort of just all of a sudden had this strong thinking about him. And so I actually, after dinner, I got up and I went to the computer and I searched for the Michael Malloy show. And I was having bad internet connection. I couldn't find it. And I just but I was like, okay, well, couldn't find it. Well, the next day I get an email from Danielle that said that Michael Malloy had passed away last night. So probably right about the time that I had those thoughts, it's like that was when Michael Malloy passed. So I think he visited through, spirits, and it's like, if you believe, I don't know, but it's such a coincidence that happened right at that time. And I don't know. I'm just throwing out there that it was a reaffirming of my faith. You may look at it as coincidence, but I'm telling you, there was no, I just thought about him. And then, it was like, I had talked about him at the dinner table, at that last night. So it was quite an amazing thing. So I don't know. It just reaffirms my faith, and I know that he's with God now. So, let me see, where was something? Oh, Vice Baby's here. Good to see you. And yes, Vice Baby, I did not know you were considering law. I would be happy to, do a private Zoom channel with me. Just email me at steve@stevegosney.com. Get your free book here at Get Your Free Scooter, Asks Where Is God? Free ebook at steve@stevegosney.com. So anyway, that was an amazing, I think it's like a miracle. I call it a little baby miracle, but that's what I feel. There was something else I wanted to tell you all about. Kind of just wanted to say hello. Yeah, Rumble chat. And I don't know, Nick Starro. Yeah, Nick Starro got to visit us. He was a lot of fun. It was really neat getting to meet him live because I actually get him a lot better now, because before he had this odd sense of humor that sometimes things would go past me. But now that I've actually physically met him, I am much happier. Yeah, Upon the Horizon's here. Good to see Upon the Horizon. Upon the Horizon has, and it's his story to share, but he had a similar very bad encounter with cancel culture. And it's changed me, and I don't know exactly. I'm not streaming as much, and actually I'm much happier. I'll tell you a little more about my job. I have a 12th floor corner office and I'm about 5 minutes from my house. So and I'm doing stuff that's very happy. So I'm very happy with the current state of things, and I kind of don't want to mess that up. And I'm very shell shocked by what happened to me, and it's been scarred me. I'm a little more mercenary, and I don't know. I'm just telling you the way it is. It's like, but thank you for everybody for sticking with me. Look, I've got these great people in here upon the horizon. Slidey Pie, I see Slidey Pie here, who read that book in front to back, right? And I don't have any bad feelings about the book. My book was great. I mean, you read it for Slidey Pie, right? But Vice Baby's here, and I'm blessed to know him because Vice, he's Legal Vice's son. And Gigi's here, another good person. All you guys, look at all you good folks. I guess I should say hello to people in the chat. That would be nice, right? You got April, who was first up. I don't even know. The notifications, I guess, still work. Maybe there's nothing else on. Anime Rumpiri. AJ's here. Yes, AJ is, I think you were the first person to read Death Penalty Desires, right? Eric, good to see you. Here's Eric. Let me see. Yeah. Oops. Click, click, click. Here we go, Eric. And Catherine K, good to see you, Catherine. Nice folks. See, all these are good folks. Current Zero, thank you. You look good. You look good, like Sopranos. You look good. And of course, Slidey Pie. Thank you. And then Mads. Yeah, 94%. Yeah, that's a pretty precise number. See, and that precision of that number adds to its validity, right? You think, oh, 94%. Not 90%, 94% with a computer, right? So, but I'm just saying that there's no gate matching science. It's everybody on the gate in the computer. There's Auntie May. Auntie, good to see you. And SP Ellers, good to see you. Eric, nice to see you. Up here's Upon the Horizon we were talking about. Upon the Horizon, another beautiful Christian man who always keeps me up to speed on my biblical quotes. Janeway, is that like the Captain Janeway, who I think is one of the underrated Star Trek captains of the world? Let's see who else we have here on the old list. I'm going to go play some Civilization, Civ 6 probably. We got Mads. That's right. Well, and I'm getting more attuned. What that Prosecutor Smith did is overthrowing the Republic as far as I'm concerned. Horrible. Daisy Girl Williams. And the Mithril King. That's interesting. I like the way you say that. Mithril. Pipe bombs. Yes, right. And let's see who else we have. And then the great, my great mod, Shane Zever, and I haven't streamed in a long time or whatever. And here he is, right, pitching across the plate, hitting strikes. Good job. Thank you very much. Let's see. And then we've got W Rock. Yeah, I don't know. We don't really know all the evidence, and they're keeping it close because you want to hold back certain evidence so that you interrogate somebody. Then if you interrogate somebody, then you want to have a holdback list so that they don't, so we didn't tell them these things and these things weren't in the public domain, so that when they fill in certain details, you know that person has inside knowledge. I hope they do it right. And the problem, this law enforcement agencies being corrupted is just terrible for this country, just terrible. And they have been. They have been. And it's sick. I mean, there were the January 6th stuff. There were 500 feds in the crowd, I think is what it was. So bad. So let's see here. I'm catching up, and I probably missed some chats here. Current Zero. Yes, I've personally lost my faith, my Lord's worthy. Well, and I'm sorry to hear that, but faith will test you. I hope that you come back and understand that Western civilization is built on Christian faith. Individual freedom depends on Christian faith. And I found that because, I didn't know that until I really did the Prepare book. When I found out, I try to truth and individual freedom are the two things that drive me. And I would say faith is now in that because of when I wrote Prepare, I found that individual freedom depended on Christian faith to exist. In non-Christian societies, individual freedom is not a value, and Christianity requires individual freedom. So Matthew Felty, because see, I want to say hi to everybody because it's been a while and make sure I get everybody here. No more guest spots on Laid Back News. What does that mean? I don't know. I was on Laid Back News the last episode. I did go on there. I've been trying, I've been going in some chats and visiting some of my friends online. And, occasionally I'll swoop by, see Vice babies all over the place, man. You're rocking it. Love it. And I really would like to talk to you about being a lawyer and the pluses and minuses. Oh, yeah, the book was awesome. Yeah, AJ. She liked the book. You know what it's about, right? Slidey Pie liked it, right? Well, Slidey Pie, she read it cover to cover online. It's amazing. And AJ read it. We had dinner, AJ and I. It was nice. We've got Dweez. I saw you on chat the other day. Yeah. Oh, and then here's Fondon. Can't chat, but just listening. Good to see. He's a trucker friend. Always love the truckers. And King Bob, member for 15th month. King Bob, you get a celebration. I should do one of my little media asset things here. Here we go. Ready? You got to turn if your stereo's up, turn it down because this is going to be loud. This is for you for being a member and sticking with me, King Bob. Ready? Tati low note from Ginger. That one's for you. I should have like the celebration videos, but I don't know. Could you hear? I didn't hear any music there. Gift with somebody. Oh, somebody's doing gifted memberships over in Rumble. Eric. Oh, thank you, Eric. That's sweet. There you go. Oh, plum wine. I've got some plum wine. Maybe I'll go get some plum wine. I try not, I don't want to drink too much. Oh, so let's see. Anyway, that was nice. Thank you very much, Eric. So am I caught up here? Yeah, POD. Yeah, POD was really good. And actually, the singer for Ginger, who's Tatiana, married the drummer for POD. And he was really a good drummer. I'll tell you, I really liked him. And that was cool. So yeah, Ginger's got what else? What's musically happening? I'm going to go see Jason Bonham at the Hard Rock coming up. That's going to happen. Second account is even longer. King Bob, you are a hero. Thank you very much for sticking with me. Any requests? See, I'm charging through the nose by the hour now, so it's harder for me to justify coming on and doing a lot more streaming. But I had some real specific thoughts on this, and it's very important stuff. And and there's not a lot of people out there commenting. It's easy to be polarized. It's easy to go with team whatever, but it's much more difficult. But we need to be disciplined to the truth. That's what I'm saying to you. Truthful discipline to yourself. We are just so buried, and I know you've heard me say this before, so buried in lies. And human beings are very good at deception. And we need to struggle very, very hard against falsity and lies in our culture. Because, and I will say that comes right from, holy hell, okay, here's King Bob. I like your King Bob's one better. But boy, look at, he's sticking with me. That is cool, cool, cool. So cool that you've been a member for 23 months. I don't know anybody else. That is wonderful. Yeah. Trivium. We talked about that, didn't we, online? Yeah, so I'm going to go see Jason Bonham with Mr. Jimmy on guitar, doing Led Zeppelin Physical Graffiti up at the Hard Rock. And I've got good seats this time. I went and saw Jason Bonham. It was a really good show. And this time I got better seats. Lazy L, nice to see. Boy, everybody's showing up, making my day go good. Thank you very much. Jim tells you, is this thing real or just a shiny object they're using to distract us from actual crimes? Right. Exactly. Right. Eric. And upon the horizon. Yeah, I love music, whether it's Christian music or not. I mean, I stay away from anti-Christian music. Let's put it that way. But music is beautiful in and of itself. So, and I love talking about music, right? And I'm actually enjoying my music again. I haven't, there's so many things. When I was in depression, you lose interest in things, and I was lost interest in music and laughing. And boy, I'm so happy. At least, I've got my second wind or my third wind. I was thinking about this when we were talking a little bit about my careers. My career in criminal law is over. I just accepted that now. But it's interesting because before I was a lawyer, I worked for the Home Builders Association in Volusia County. And I really I took that organization from a disaster into a national award-winning organization. And in about 3.5 years. So I would say my first career that I mastered was nonprofit association management with the home builders, the HBA, in Volusia County, Florida. And that was my first career. And then I went on and became a lawyer. And then I did some civil law. I wasn't that great. I would say my first 6 years in law, I was an associate and was learning my way. And I was good, but not great, I'd say, at that. And I became a litigator, and I needed to move and become better as a trial guy, right? And so then I went into criminal law, and I went and became a prosecutor for a fellow named John Tanner up in Volusia County. And actually I prosecuted in Flagler County, which is north of Volusia, Flagler County, north of Daytona, between Daytona Beach and St. Augustine. And I did that for 6 years. Now, when I was under John Tanner, I feel like I really was a good prosecutor. I really feel like that was my second career that I really mastered and did well in. John Tanner, you might know, was the prosecutor who got the death sentence for Eileen Wuornos. He was a fabulous prosecutor and a mentor of mine, and a very big supporter of mine, very good Christian, very Protestant Christian. And he would pray with people. He actually got in trouble or got a lot of criticism because he actually went and prayed with Ted Bundy on death row. Now, why he picked Ted Bundy, I don't know, but he's like, he was a real character, real alpha male. And then, of course, when they had a change of prosecutor up there, I was on the Tanner team, and eventually they got me, and I was out there. But then I went over to the public defender's office, and I did trial work for about a little bit of trial work, and then I went to appeals, and I think I really mastered appeals. So the third career that I think I mastered was criminal appeals, and that was cool and fun. Fiery Red Podcast is here. God bless. And he's still with us. And here's another man that's taken me and helped me and stuck with me and been an inspiration for me, because I think I've got it bad. Oh, poor B, right? And then, of course, Fiery Red, man, he's really fighting battles, and he's in there still slugging it out. So God bless you, Fiery Red. So that was my third career I mastered. I would say I really feel like I really mastered it. And now I'm in civil litigation, and I'm going to master civil litigation. I'm finally in a position now as senior trial attorney in Florida for this national firm where I can and I've got a trial on Monday. This is what I was going to tell you. So I'm going to have my first civil jury trial on Monday. And so we'll see how that goes. And I thought that's going to be fun. And I'm really excited about that. And I just want to be great at civil trial. So we shall see. So that's that. And let me see what else is happening. Let's see, can we get our music? What is the music coming up I'm looking forward to? I don't know. Do you guys have any topics that you want to hear from me? So I'll be, I don't know what's happening with Laid Back News. I see, Southern Law. Do you know Southern Law? Steve in Southern Law used to go on Laid Back News a lot. I was wondering where he went. And, he's now in the North Carolina prosecutor's office. So, oh, yeah, that's going to be a good one. Matthew Felty says that Sammy Hagar is amazing. He's one of my favorite people. bassist Michael Anthony, guitarist Joe Satriani, and drummer Kenny Arndorf, who's an amazing drummer, and multi-instrumentalist. I don't know the multi-instrumentalist, and I can't pronounce that last name. Thistle Thwaite? I don't know. Oh, and Jacob. Joe, let me show you this. This is Jacob Turnbow. Oops, where'd he go? Jacob Turnbow is here. Yes, I'm very well. We were just talking about that catch-up crew. But he helped me do some designing for some of my book stuff. So always have a warm, whenever I see Jacob's name, it makes me happy. He was one of my early supporters that pitched in and did some work for me. So thank you very much. Yeah, Satch, that's right. Yeah, Joe Satriani, he's doing the Eddie Van Halen thing. I've been watching a lot of, Southern Law. Yeah, he's a prosecutor, so that's why you're not seeing him, because he's in government. The Kowalski appeal. That's the civil appeal over in South Florida with the, I haven't been following that enough. It looked very technical, and I think there were some other commentators that did better job on that. The person I'd probably go to on that would be the Lawyer You Know or Law and Lumber. Those guys, I would go to those two for commentary on that appeal. What was I going to say? Oh, so another one I've been watching a lot of Rick Beato and this fellow named what's his name, the Smashing Pumpkins guy, who's doing interviews, and I love the interviews, the music, and what was it? The interviews with. It's a great interview. Who's the guy from? Oh yeah, Billy Corgan. So check this out, Fire. If you want to look at something really good, check out the interview with Billy Corgan. Interviews Rudy Sarzo. Now Rudy Sarzo is a bass player, and he when I was growing up, and I'm a Gen Xer, right? When I was growing up, Rudy Sarzo was all over the place. Early MTV, right? And he just had a run that was just incredible. And he is one of the coolest, nicest guys. And he's from Cuba. He's a Cuban immigrant. He came here when he was like 10 years old and came to Miami. And he was a Miami guy. And really one of the nicest guys, got a strong Christian faith, and just a overall great guy. Rudy Sarzo. Okay, so Fiery Red you're already catching up. So to tell you what, I'll give you the quick Rudy Sarzo rundown. Because when he first came out, he played with Ozzy. So the first two albums he didn't record with him, but he's on all those videos, Crazy Train, and all those first Ozzy, Blizzard of Oz, Diary Madman, and he was friends with Randy Rhoads, and so he played on. A lot of people identified him with that Ozzy, so everybody's like, oh, he's on the Ozzy tour. And then he left Ozzy and went to a group called Quiet Riot that he had relationships with. And he played on that record. And that was the first #1 heavy metal record. And he's on all the Quiet Riot videos. Right. And then so everybody saw him and it's like, hey, look, Rudy Sarzo was with Ozzy. And then it's like, wait a second, Rudy Sarzo was with Quiet Riot. And then he went to Whitesnake, and he was not the player on that, but he subbed in. And then all of a sudden, Whitesnake had that huge '87 album, and here's Rudy Sarzo. I'm like, what's the secret to having a huge album? Hire Rudy Sarzo, right? And he has a very distinctive way he plays and style, and really a nice guy. And that's a great interview. Billy Corgan interviews Rudy Sarzo. You want to see a good person. And Hagar, I think, is one of those really good people in music. And so is Rudy Sarzo, and he's also, this is close to my heart, a Spector guy. So he plays Spector basses, which I love Spector basses. That's my #1. It's a Spector. So that's pretty cool. Oh, Eric I is gifting memberships over in Rumble. Thank you to my Rumble folks. Isn't that sweet? So hit the thumbs up, folks. I don't know what that does to anything. It's what you're supposed to say. I don't know. Like, I've demonetized the channel because I make $1 from YouTube, so I'm not monetizing it. I'm sorry, I'm taking off that monetization. I'm not here to be a big YouTuber or a big Rumbler or any big streamer. I mean, that ain't happening, right? I am now going to be a civil litigator. I'm going to be a great trial lawyer, PI case, and I am the PI, the senior trial attorney in the Felicetti law firm, and senior trial guy. So I will do all the trials for that firm from now on, all throughout Florida. So if you have a personal injury case, that's how most of our clients are Spanish speakers, though. So I don't speak Spanish, but I can try a case, and we're going to turn it into one of the best PI lawyers in Florida and probably the country. So thank you very much, Fiery. You haven't seen me. I don't know. Most of my stuff you've seen has been appellate work, right? So you've seen me argue before appellate. Oh, I wanted to make another point, and I got another problem with you guys to talk about, because see, like I'm smiling, I'm happy. I'm glad to be happy again. But I have, a number of my oral arguments before different courts are up online, and I think they're actually in my channel. I post them. So I've argued before the Florida Supreme Court multiple times, and most of them I think are 50 arguments, I think. Right, appellate. So, but I have various arguments, and some of them are better than others, right? But one of them that some of my critics, because I picked up these haters, the people that just hate and want to destroy and tear me down, and were effective and got me fired from my last job and destroyed my career, right? Which is the whole basis of my Miami Herald suit. But during one of the things they were picking on was my oral argument in the speedy trial case. Yes, Eric. Thank you for the 5 memberships. Look at him. He's gifting memberships. It's so cool. Thank you. You don't need to do that. I appreciate it. I'm just here for you guys to hopefully spread some truth. I want you to always be true. Don't lie, even when it's anonymous and nobody knows who you are. Be a force for truth in the chat, in the internet, and in your life, and with yourself. That's what I want you to do. So here's what I was going to do. Like, oh yeah. So the senior trial attorney. That's right. Nice. There, upon. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? There's more. I'll give you some more updates coming soon, but hopefully maybe one of my trials will be streamed or be available, and you can actually see me in a jury trial, because most of my work's been jury trials, not appellate or oral advocacy, but that's just the stuff that's always being recorded, so you get to see those. But I had some great trials. I think maybe I don't know, no more books. I'll tell you about the book too, all right? And remind me to tell you about the fantasy novel. But I want to go back to this one oral argument I did. So one oral argument for the Florida Supreme Court was on the, I forget what the name of the case was, but it was on the speedy trial rule. And the briefing on that, I had a very strong brief. King Bob got a Steve Gosney membership. That's funny. So, so I had this oral argument. Well, the briefing was really strong. I really felt I should have won that case. And Justice Labarga up there, who I think is my favorite Florida Supreme Court justice. I wish I don't want him to leave the Florida Supreme Court, but he could be U.S. Supreme Court or anything he want. I'd be supportive, because I think he's a very fair, intelligent, thoughtful, and he comes from Cuba, and he knows tyranny, and he is just an incredible justice. I really respect Justice Labarga on the Supreme Court, and I did get him with my argument, but in the JK5, the wonderful world of, he just has to say that, but I'll bring it up because you did it. The wonderful world of gods. Thank you very much for your $2 super chat. So, but this oral argument was not good. It was not my best, and the reason is because when a justice speaks in the Florida Supreme Court, you immediately shut up. Well, I had a point to make, but every time I'd start to talk, they would cut me off. And there was, there's 9 against 1 there. And so I was sounding like an idiot, because as soon as I'd make a point, they'd interrupt me again. And I was constantly interrupted. And it was only in the last 2 minutes that I actually got my point in that I wanted to make. But sometimes I wonder if they're interrupting me just because they don't want me to make my coherent point for any of the audience, you viewers. But the briefing on that was much better, So anyways, but people were criticizing, they were saying I'm not a good oral advocate because of this particular oral advocacy performance in front of the Florida Supreme Court. But the problem was I was constantly being interrupted by the court, and they wouldn't let me get out a coherent point. The issue in that case was when does the speedy trial rule apply? And so here's a little legal nerding out for you because you guys love the legal nerding stuff. All right, so my client in that case, there was a robbery, there was a car fled to this house, and they surrounded the house, and there was a bunch of people in the house, right? My client was in that house, and they started pulling them out one by one, and they eventually got the suspects. And they basically took everybody in the back patrol car, took him down to the police station, and interrogated my client for like 8 hours. They handcuffed him, put him back of the car, took him to the police station, threw him in an interrogation room, eventually interrogated him, and then unhandcuffed him and said, okay, well, you're free to leave after 8 hours. A year and a half later, or 2 years later, whatever it was, one of the guys that was involved in the robbery gets a deal to say, tell us all who all your co-defendants were, and he points to my client. Well, it was past the speedy trial. But now the thing is because I think he was arrested. My guy was arrested. He was put in handcuffs back of the car, interrogated at the police station. But before they said, okay, you're free to go, we never booked you, so you're not arrested for the purpose of speedy trial. That was the state argument. And I'm like, but of course, any normal person would say, I sure felt like I was under arrest, right? Well, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Yes. So the argument was, there's actual arrest where you get a mug shot and you're booked and your fingerprint, but could there be something called de facto arrest, meaning everything is an arrest except they don't book you? I'm saying yes. Hi, Michael Stetson. Good to see you. So, I'm saying yes, there's something other than just the cops can't just, what if they put him in a cell for overnight, but they never took his picture and fingerprinted him and booked him? And then they say you're free to leave. Well, is that not an arrest? What if they held him for 30 days? Is that not an arrest for speedy trial purposes? But the Florida Supreme Court said, no, it's only de facto arrest. The cops can control that for purposes of speedy trial by not booking you. And I'm just saying, no, there's got to be a de facto arrest. And Labargo's dissent was really good on that. But that was the issue in that case. And I could never get to that point because they kept interrupting. I'm sorry, it's a little pet peeve because that criticism bothered me because I think I'm a very good oral advocate. But when I'm being interrupted constantly by the court, I've got to shut up. That's part of the etiquette of arguing in an appellate fashion. Yeah, custody tantamount to arrest. Exactly, Matthew. See there, you got it. And it was a bad decision. And I think that one of the reasons Labarga tuned in because, he's very suspicious of government tyranny and government overreach and government power. So, yeah, Michael Stetson is a woman, right? Yeah, now there's also a question, back to this question about the person who's the gate, is the size. How precisely can we gauge height and size based on a video? I don't know. It wasn't during a trial. That was an oral argument. Yeah, I was red because I was wanting to make my point, and I'd start it, and then I'd have to interrupt. So I had to bite my tongue, And but I think I was respectful, and I did get my point in. But it was the last couple minutes when it was like, okay, are you done with your question? Can I just get this last 2 minutes? Funny. Maybe when I'm going to start doing a lot more trials. And yeah, that's the state position, that there's only formal arrest. There is no de facto arrest for purposes of speedy trial. I don't think that's right. I think that's a wrong decision of the Florida Supreme Court. But that was my position, but that's the law has changed. So I want to tell you a little bit more. I'm everybody books. If you don't want to hear me talk about books, then go away. Don't log on. Don't watch me. And if you don't like me, go away. Don't watch me. Click off. Go watch something else. There's millions of people who watch on YouTube. So just make that point. If you're a hater, I don't want you around. All right. And this is just from me and my friends, all these nice people in chat. We have a beautiful chat, beautiful people. And yeah, so Michael Stetson, he's adding a little wisdom. And I don't know this, but I suspect it's true. Is visual effects studios have been using automated tracking software for years. It's really good at solving distances, sizes, and angles. There's plenty of objects around to compare to. Yeah, and I would suspect that's correct. And I would say that's a lot more scientific than gait analysis. So I would defer to you, and I think that that's probably true. They could estimate size very closely. Yes, and Slidey Pie, you said it. So on the book that front, I've got this fancy, and I finally, like, I haven't written anything except for law for the last couple of years because I've been uninspired. I've been down. But I did actually write about 2 pages on my fantasy novel. And I was thinking, what am I going to do with that? If you want a book, there's tons of books. I can put my scroll up here. You get a free book, free scooter book at my ebook. You can get it. It's for free. Here, where's my little scroll thingy? Like here, okay, you can always do that if you want to see that stuff. But I was thinking on the fantasy novel, what I might do is just do like, just take my sweet time. It might take years to really do it right, get it illustrated, and do a real big format, full color, high quality book just for my friends. And just that would be it, just for me. I'll do it for me. And then eventually, that's my long-term 5-year project, maybe, once I get comfortable and if I'm inspired. So that's kind of what I'm going to do as far as next. But if you want a book, I got plenty of books you can buy. Nobody's been buying them. I mean, the other thing is this Miami Herald article and what they did to me. They also pretty much destroyed my book business. And nobody buys books. And I'm wondering how many people even read anymore. I don't think people read. And that's at loss because I love books and I've been reading. Of course, lawyers, that's all what they always say. Lawyers love books. All right, well, that's what I got you to now. We've been going about an hour. So thank you all for sticking with me and for being positive. And I'll try to be on Laid Back News. I'm still on chats. And if I have something worthwhile to see, yeah, AJ, buy the first copy. Like she's awesome. AJ did buy the first copy. You were the first one to read my book. And that was cool. That was a lot of fun. That was a fun time we had. And maybe if you come to Miami, you can look me up. Yeah, me too. You guys see that already. Though it's a long way off. There's plenty of books out there if you want to read them. And yeah, so if I have something worthwhile and unique to say that other people aren't saying, yeah, laid back law. What did I say? But if I have something, then I'll do a stream, or if I feel inspired. But I'm demonetizing it. I'm just basically taking it off. But I thank you, AJ, and thank you all for sticking with me. And who knows? I do have a locals thing. Occasionally, I'll put stuff up. So my basic form, I have Rumble, YouTube, and Twitter, and I do tweet quite a bit. So if you want to follow me there, and then I have a locals thing too, which I think I might have put up the whole complaint on. I don't know. So I don't know. All right. And so Eric is in there gifting memberships like a madman. You are awesome, Eric. So thank you for gifting people memberships. It's very kind. And here, like you got one. Yeah. So, all right. Well, nice Sunday. So I'm going to go play some Civilization 6. What do you say? All right. You guys have a good Saturday and be truthful to all. Okay. Be truthful to yourself and your friends. All right. God bless you. See you later.